There are 6 pieces of evidence in the Lynette Hooker investigation that belong in sequence, not side by side, not as a list. In sequence because the way they connect to each other is not incidental. It is the point. The first piece seems almost administrative, a timestamp on a surveillance camera, the kind of detail that would not mean anything in isolation. The second piece is a group of witnesses, more than 3 people, all in the same place at the same time, all seeing the same thing. The third, fourth, and fifth pieces come from a camera that was never installed for investigative purposes. A private security camera on the home of a man who simply wanted to be able to check his view of the Sea of Abaco from wherever he was in the world. And the 6th piece, the one that the other 5 only become fully legible in the context of, is something that was not found at sea. It was found in a court record, in an employment file, in a documented history of what Brian Hooker did to a GPS system when he needed to make it appear that he was somewhere he was not. All 6 pieces converge on a single question that is now embedded in the public record of this investigation. It is not a theory. It is not speculation. It is a question that the documented evidence raises and that the investigation is working to answer with the physical evidence in its possession. That question is this: who fired the flare from the Soulmate at approximately 8 p.m. on the night of April 4th of 2026? Brian Hooker told investigators he was in the water in an 8-foot dinghy at that time. He told investigators he never made it back to the 45-foot catch. He told the people he trusted in a recorded phone call that CBS News obtained and verified that he saw passing boats, used his phone flashlight and flares to try to get their attention, and drifted in the water far from the home they had built at sea. Multiple witnesses on Elbow Cay saw a flare at approximately 8 p.m. They saw it come from the sailboat. That is not a theory. That is what the witnesses reported to journalist Ashley Banfield, who has been covering this case from the ground in the Bahamas since its earliest days. And by the time this video is finished, you will understand every piece of evidence that surrounds that single documented fact, and why the 6th piece makes the question it raises impossible to set aside. Here is what the evidence countdown shows. Before the evidence, before the timeline. Before any forensic or investigative analysis of what happened on the night of April 4th, 2026, we spend time with Lynette Hooker, not with her disappearance, with her. Lynette Hooker was 55 years old. She was from Onstead, Michigan, and she had given everything to the life she and Brian built at sea. Her career, her house, every possession she owned. What she kept was what you can carry on a 45-foot catch named Soulmate, the boat she and Brian had called home for 4 years. She and Brian had been sailing together for more than a decade, documenting their life under the name the Sailing Hookers. Sea turtles and sunsets and cinnamon rolls baked in a solar oven on the deck. A life documented with the kind of specificity that only people who have genuinely chosen their circumstances produce. Her mother, Darlene Hamlet, told the Associated Press that Lynette had been around lakes, boats, sailing, and swimming her entire life. Her daughter, Carly Ellsworth, told CBS News that Lynette was very fit and strong, a good swimmer who could not simply have fallen off a boat by accident. These are not characterizations offered for emotional effect. They are direct first-hand testimony from the 2 people who knew Lynette's physical capabilities across a lifetime of watching her in the water. Lynette's last Instagram post was April 4th, 2026, the same day she disappeared. The caption said, "Not going anywhere for a while." Darlene Hamlet is 76 years old, and she is in Florida waiting for a phone call that has not come. She told Ashley Banfield that she wants nothing more than to hear Lynette say, "I love you," and know she had come home. Carly Ellsworth flew to the Bahamas. She walked the shorelines where search teams were working. She went to the spot where Brian told investigators Lynette went overboard and said her mother could have swum a couple of feet to shore. She stood at the dock and looked at the Soulmate. the boat that Lynette called home. She said, to no one who could hear her, "Hey Mom, I'm here, wherever you are." That is who is at the center of this investigation. That is who the 6 pieces of evidence that follow belong to. For viewers joining this case for the first time, here is the documented baseline. On the evening of April the 4th, 2026, according to the account Brian Hooker provided to investigators and in a recorded phone call that CBS News obtained and verified, Lynette Hooker went overboard from a small 8-foot dinghy in the waters near Elbow Cay in the Abaco Islands of the Bahamas. Brian told investigators he tried to reach her, drifted in the water, fired flares, and eventually paddled to Marsh Harbor, where he reported her missing at approximately 4:02 a.m. on the morning of April 5th. The Royal Bahamas Police Force named Brian Hooker a suspect. He was detained and later released. He has not been charged with any crime. His attorney, Terrell Butler, stated that Brian Hooker categorically and unequivocally denies all wrongdoing and has cooperated with relevant authorities. His Michigan-based attorney, Crystal Marie Hauer, told ABC News that Brian would never have harmed his wife of 25 years. Brian stated publicly in his first interview after release from custody that he never harmed Lynette and never would, and that finding her remains his sole focus. The Royal Bahamas Police Force Commissioner confirmed to NBC News that Brian Hooker remains a named suspect who has not been cleared and can be rearrested. A 25-day professional water search produced no physical evidence of Lynette Hooker. As of late April 2026, sources cited by Crime Online indicated the search had shifted from water to solid ground. That is the documented baseline. Now, let us walk through the 6 pieces of evidence, from the least significant to the one that changes how you read everything else. This first piece of evidence seems, on its surface, almost unremarkable. It is a timestamp on surveillance footage from a security camera at the Abaco Inn, the restaurant and dock from which Brian and Lynette departed on the evening of April 4th. That footage, reviewed by Carly Ellsworth and her boyfriend Steve and reported publicly, shows Brian and Lynette leaving the Abaco Inn dock at approximately 6:38 p.m., heading toward the dinghy and the crossing back to the Soulmate. The significance of 6:38 p.m. is what it establishes about the timeline that follows it. Jim Todd, a Hopetown volunteer, fire and rescue volunteer, who accompanied law enforcement back to the site on the morning of April 5th, and who knows those waters and that route directly, confirmed to Ashley Banfield that the crossing from the Abaco Inn dock to where the Soulmate was anchored in Aunt Pat's Bay takes approximately 15 minutes. 15 minutes from a 6:38 p.m. Departure places them at the Soulmate's location at approximately 6:53 p.m. Jim Todd also confirmed directly to Ashley Banfield that 6:38 p.m. was full, unambiguous daylight. The sun did not set on those waters on April 4th, 2026 until approximately 7:26 p.m. There was nearly 50 minutes of remaining daylight at the moment they left the dock. In and of itself, this is a timestamp. It becomes significant only in the context of what comes after it, because it establishes the starting point of a sequence that Brian Hooker himself described in specific detail, and the internal logic of that sequence, when applied to his own account, produces a time that matters enormously. Approximately 8:01 p.m. Here is how Brian's own account generates that time. In the recorded phone call that CBS News obtained, Brian described the sequence of events in the water. Lynette went overboard. He said the sun set approximately 10 minutes after she went over, which, measured from a 7:26 p.m. sunset, places the alleged incident at approximately 7:16 p.m. He said he threw the anchor. He said he was yelling for her, drifting, for approximately an hour. He said he eventually made his way toward Lubber's quarters. He said he fired a flare. Follow each step of that sequence from the 7:16 p.m. estimated incident time, applying the durations he described. the attempt to reach Lynette, the anchor being thrown, the yelling and drifting, approximately an hour by his own description, the paddling toward Lubber's quarters, the decision to fire a flare. By Brian's own internal timeline, each step added in the sequence he described, the flare would have been fired at approximately 8 p.m. Now, hold that time, because 8 p.m. is when the second piece of evidence arrives. The second piece of evidence is not a camera or a document. It is people, more than 3 people, all in the same group, all on land on Elbow Cay, looking out across the Sea of Abaco toward where the Soulmate was anchored in Aunt Pat's Bay. At approximately 8 p.m., on the night of April 4, 2026, those witnesses saw a flare. Ashley Banfield confirmed this publicly through her reporting on the ground in the Bahamas. She spoke to those witnesses directly. They all reported the same thing. They all agreed on approximately when they saw it. And what they reported to her was not a flare from a small dinghy drifting in the water between the Abaco Inn and Aunt Pat's Bay. Not a flare from a vessel somewhere south toward Lubber's quarters. A flare from the sailboat, from the Soulmate, the 45-foot catch sitting at anchor in Aunt Pat's Bay, the boat that Brian told investigators he and Lynette never made it back to. This is where evidence piece 1 and evidence piece 2 collide directly. Brian's own account, applied to his own internal timeline, using the durations and sequence he described in the recorded call, places the firing of a flare at approximately 8 p.m. The witnesses confirmed that a flare was seen at approximately 8 p.m., but their account of where the flare came from contradicts his account of where he was when he fired it. He says he was in the dinghy in the water. They say the flare came from the Soulmate. The boat, he said, was empty. There is no version of Brian Hooker's documented account in which that contradiction is easily resolved. Either someone else was on the Soulmate at 8 p.m., or Brian was on the Soulmate at 8 p.m., or the witnesses are mistaken about which vessel the flare came from. Those are the 3 logical possibilities. The investigation is working to determine which of them is accurate. Brian Hooker has not been charged with any crime and categorically denies all wrongdoing. But the question the witness's account places in the public record cannot be unasked. Who fired that flare from that boat at approximately 8 p.m.? Before we go to the security camera footage, and we are about to go deep into what Dean Zamzilo's camera captured on the night of April 4th and the early morning hours of April 5th. Make sure you are subscribed to the record shows and have the notification bell turned on. We cover cases like this the way they deserve to be covered. Every claim sourced, every inference labeled, and every limitation stated. Because limitations matter. You are about to hear about security camera footage with specific and significant limitations, and we are going to state them clearly, the same way Ashley Banfield stated them clearly. Because that is what serious coverage of serious evidence requires. If you have been following the Lynette Hooker case, hit the like button and tell me in the comments. At this point in the investigation, which single piece of evidence do you think would be most determinative if investigators can definitively authenticate it? The security camera footage or the Apple Watch data? Leave your analysis below. Now, back to the evidence. To understand the full weight of the witness accounts, you need to understand what a maritime distress flare actually is and how it behaves. A maritime distress flare is a pyrotechnic signaling device designed for one specific purpose: to be seen from a distance. Modern handheld distress flares, the type typically carried on vessels like the Soulmate, produce a bright red or orange burning light, visible for nautical miles under normal conditions. Solus-grade flares, commonly used in offshore sailing, are rated for visibility at a minimum of 10 nautical miles. The light they produce is not subtle or ambiguous. It is a sustained burn, typically 60 seconds or more, specifically designed to allow a distant observer to determine the source vessel's location. This matters because the witnesses on Elbow Cay were not trying to identify a momentary flash in a dark sky. They were watching a sustained, bright, directionally specific burn engineered precisely so an observer can pinpoint its origin. The Soulmate was a known vessel in a known anchor position, a fixed reference point against which the flare's origin could be estimated. When more than 3 witnesses in the same group, all looking in the same direction, all describe the flare as coming from the sailboat's location, that is the kind of observation a distress flare is specifically built to produce. What a flare cannot eliminate is the possibility of error in distinguishing between 2 vessels in close proximity at night. A small dinghy very close to the Soulmate could in theory be mistaken for the sailboat itself in darkness. The investigation's physical evidence, the devices seized from the boat, the digital records, holds the material that can evaluate that possibility with precision that eyewitness accounts alone cannot. What the witnesses establish is documented. At approximately 8:11 p.m. on April 4, 2026, a distress flare was fired from the direction of the Soulmate's anchor position in Aunt Pat's Bay. That is in the public record, confirmed through Ashley Banfield's sourced on-the-ground reporting. Now, we arrive at the private security camera. And before anything else about this evidence is described, the limitation that Ashley Banfield stated publicly about it must be stated here, with equal clarity. The footage is grainy. The Soulmate was approximately 1 mile from Dean Zamzilo's camera. Dean Zamzilo cannot say, and Ashley Banfield cannot say, with absolute certainty that what appears in the footage at the specific timestamps that matter is definitively the Soulmate. This is a genuine limitation of this evidence, and it belongs at the front of any description of it. Dean Zamzilo has a camera installed on his home on Lubber's Quarters that faces east across the Sea of Abaco toward Elbow Cay, and the area where the Soulmate was anchored in Aunt Pat's Bay on the night of April 4th. The camera runs continuously, recording every second of day and night. He installed it to be able to check the view from wherever he was in the world, not for any investigative purpose. Dean shared this footage with Ashley Banfield and her producer, who spent approximately 5 hours analyzing every frame. Dean's daughters helped identify reference points on shore, specific landmarks, lights, and fixed positions that allowed them to estimate where the Soulmate's anchor position would appear within the camera's frame. Those reference points and the measurements derived from them were what Ashley Banfield's team used to identify the locations in the footage that correspond to the Soulmate's documented anchor position in Aunt Pat's Bay. With that limitation clearly stated, here is what the footage shows. At 7:47 p.m. on April 4th, 2026, approximately 21 minutes after the Soulmate's anchor position had been left behind by Brian and Lynette, who departed the Abaco Inn at 6:38 p.m. The camera captured a light event at the location in the frame consistent with where the Soulmate was anchored. Ashley Banfield described this event publicly and characterized it based on consultation with mariners who examined photographs of the Soulmate's rigging, as consistent with automatic security spotlights mounted on the stern of a catch. Stern-mounted security spotlights, a standard security feature on offshore sailing vessels, are motion-activated. They illuminate the back of the boat when something or someone approaches from the water. They are not interior lights. They are not anchor lights, which burn continuously and at lower intensity. They are high-intensity exterior lights that activate specifically when triggered by motion at the stern. A significant flash of light, visible from a mile away on a grainy security camera at the location of the Soulmate's anchored position, at 7:47 p.m. on the night of April 4th, 2026. 13 minutes later, the witnesses on Elbow Cay saw the flare, the sequence, 7:47 p.m., light event, 8:00 p.m. Flare from the sailboat's direction is in the public record. The fourth piece of evidence comes from the same camera, the same footage. 4 hours and 40 minutes later, at 12:27 a.m. on April 5th, 2026, Hours after Brian told investigators he was still adrift in the dinghy heading toward Marsh Harbor, and hours before, he says he arrived at the Marsh Harbor boatyard at approximately 4:10 a.m. Dean Zamzilo's camera captured another light event at the location in the frame, consistent with where the Soulmate was anchored. Ashley Banfield described this event as appearing consistent with a flashlight moving around in the vicinity of the boat, and with what appeared to be the stern spotlights activating again, as if something or someone had once again triggered the motion-sensitive security lights mounted on the back of the catch. This is the piece of evidence that makes the 7:47 p.m. event more significant rather than less. It is not a single unexplained light event on a grainy camera a mile away from a boat that was supposed to be empty. It is a pattern. 2 light events at the location of a boat that its owner says no one was on or near during those hours. At 12:27 a.m., Brian Hooker's documented account places him in the water in a small dinghy. His account to police and to the people he trusted places him still in transit toward Marsh Harbor at that hour. His account does not place him anywhere near the Soulmate. And yet the camera, with all of its documented limitations, shows a light event at the Soulmate's location, consistent with someone activating the boat's motion-sensitive security lighting. Evidence Piece 5. Dean Zamzilo's camera, 12:32 a.m., 5 minutes after the 12:27 a.m. event. At 12:32 a.m., the same camera captured a third event at the same location. Ashley Banfield described it publicly as multiple brief flashes consistent with a flashlight moving nearby, the beam appearing in the camera's frame as it swept in different directions, followed by the stern security lights activating again. The lights, according to her reporting, remained on for approximately 53 seconds before going completely dark. 3 light events at the location of a boat that no one was supposed to be on or near. 7:47 p.m., 12:27 a.m., and 12:32 a.m. 2 of them at hours when Brian Hooker's own documented account places him nowhere near the vessel. The stern security lights, motion-activated, exterior, high intensity, activating 3 times on a night when the boat's owner says the boat was sitting empty in Aunt Pat's Bay. The investigation holds Dean Zamzilo's footage. It holds every frame. It also holds the physical evidence from the Soulmate itself, seized under a search warrant that CBS News reviewed, a digital video recorder, digital tablets, and cell phone-related equipment described in court documents as material evidence related to a missing person causing bodily harm. Whatever the Soulmate's own digital systems recorded on the night of April 4th is in the possession of investigators who have resources and authentication tools that a private security camera a mile away does not have. 3 light events on a grainy camera are 3 data points. What the Soulmate's own digital systems hold may be the authenticated record of what those data points represent. Before the final evidence, what the TMZ footage adds to the picture. There is one additional documented element that belongs in this analysis before we arrive at the 6th piece of evidence. Not because it is the most significant, but because it adds a specific and documented layer to the human picture of the days that followed April 4th. TMZ obtained and published on April 25, 2026, video footage of Brian Hooker aboard the Soulmate on April 6, 2026. 2 days after Lynette disappeared, and 2 days before his arrest. In the footage, Brian is speaking to a fellow boater from a nearby vessel. The fellow boater offers condolences. Brian, standing on the Soulmate, discusses his anchor. He mentions that he may need help with it because he has never brought it up on his own before. That footage is in the public record. What it tells investigators is a question the investigation is working to answer with the full context of what it holds. The 6th piece of evidence is not from the water. It is not from a camera. It is from a personnel file and a court record. According to sources who spoke to Ashley Banfield, confirmed by court documents, Brian Hooker worked for AT&T as a telephone repairman and installer. He was, by multiple accounts from people who knew him professionally, technically sophisticated. He understood how phones worked. He understood tracking systems. He understood GPS. He understood what creates a digital trace and what does not. And according to those sources, confirmed by court documents, Brian was separated from AT&T, reportedly fired, for jury-rigging the GPS on his company vehicle. The specific nature of the manipulation, as confirmed through sourcing, he altered the GPS system on the van to mask his actual location, and to make the van appear to be somewhere it was not, to create a false record of where he was. That is not an allegation against Brian Hooker in the Lynette Hooker investigation. It is a documented employment and legal history confirmed through sources and court records. It is a fact that exists independent of the current case and that does not establish guilt of anything in this investigation. But here is why it belongs as the sixth and final piece of evidence in this countdown. The central factual question of the Lynette Hooker investigation, the question that the witnesses, the camera, and the timeline all orbit, is the exact location and movements of a specific person on a specific night. The investigation holds Brian Hooker's phone. The investigation holds the Soulmate's digital systems. The investigation holds the Apple Watch data that the U.S. Coast Guard confirmed to Lynette's mother, Darlene Hamlet, was part of the physical evidence in their possession. The investigation holds the digital exhaust of every device that was active on and around the Soulmate on the night of April the 4th, 2026. And the person those devices are associated with has a documented, confirmed history of altering a GPS system to make a record show a location that did not reflect where he actually was. That is not a verdict. It is not a determination of guilt. It is the sixth piece of evidence in a countdown that began with a timestamp on a surveillance camera at 6:38 p.m. and ends with a documented history of GPS manipulation. Those six pieces of evidence surround a single question. That question is in the public record. It cannot be unasked. Who fired the flare from the Soulmate at approximately 8:01 p.m.? This section is analysis. It is labeled as such throughout. Nothing that follows is a factual determination or a legal conclusion. All named individuals are presumed innocent. Brian Hooker has not been charged with any crime. The analytical question the six pieces of evidence raise is not about guilt. It is about what each piece requires to be true. If Brian's account is accurate, if he was in the dinghy at 8:01 p.m. and never returned to the Soulmate, then the witnesses are mistaken about which vessel the flare came from, the 7:47 p.m. light event on Dean Zamzilo's camera has an explanation unrelated to anyone approaching the vessel. The 12:27 a.m. and 12:32 a.m. events have similar explanations, and the GPS manipulation history is biographical background with no bearing on the current investigation. All of those things are possible. Witnesses can be mistaken at night. Grainy security cameras a mile from their subject produce ambiguous footage. A documented history of GPS manipulation does not establish that anyone manipulated anything in this case. If Brian's account is not accurate in some material respect, the six pieces form a pattern that the investigation's physical evidence may confirm or contradict. The Soulmate's digital systems, the Apple Watch data, the phone records, and the seized devices are the evidentiary layer beneath everything the public record currently shows. The investigation knows what those devices hold. The public does not. That is how serious investigations work. The public record raises the question. The investigation's non-public evidence may hold the answer. Current investigation status. As of late April 2026. Active. Multi-jurisdictional. No charges filed. The Royal Bahamas Police Force is the primary investigating authority. Brian Hooker has been named a suspect, detained, released, and confirmed by the RBPF commissioner to NBC News as someone who has not been cleared and can be rearrested. Evidence in investigators' possession, confirmed through court documents reviewed by CBS News, a digital video recorder, digital tablets, and cell phone-related equipment from the Soulmate, described as material evidence related to a missing person causing bodily harm. Apple Watch data confirmed to Lynette's mother, Darlene Hamlet, in a direct phone call from the U.S. Coast Guard. Multiple recorded phone calls and text messages from Brian Hooker. Multiple accounts given by Brian Hooker in different contexts, to police, to the CBS verified recorded call, and in his public interview following his release from custody, are all in investigators' possession. The search has shifted from water to land. Per sources cited by Crime Online, Brian Hooker has stated publicly that finding Lynette remains his sole focus and that he never harmed her. His attorneys maintain their consistent public position, cooperation, categorical denial of wrongdoing, and a request that the public extend the benefit of the doubt. Anyone with information about the disappearance of Lynette Hooker, anyone who was in the waters near Elbow Cay or Aunt Pat's Bay on the night of April 4th, 2026, anyone who saw a flare, anyone who has footage from the night from any vessel or private property, is urged to contact the Royal Bahamas Police Force or the United States Coast Guard. Both investigations remain active. Tips can also be submitted anonymously through the CGIS Tips application. Ashley Banfield's Drop Dead Serious podcast can be contacted at dropdeadserious.info@agmail.com. Before the closing section, and this is a genuine question that I want your analysis on, not just your reaction. Given what is in the public record as of this video, which of the non-public pieces of evidence do you believe is most likely to resolve the flare question definitively? The Apple Watch data, which the Coast Guard confirmed is in investigators' possession, the Soulmate's digital video recorder, the cell phone and device records, or something else in the investigative file that we have not yet seen publicly. Leave your reasoning in the comments. I read them all. There are 6 pieces of evidence. The first, a surveillance timestamp. 6:38 p.m. 2 people leaving a dock. Brian's own account of what followed, applied in the sequence he described, produces a time. That time is approximately 8 p.m. The second, witnesses. More than 3 of them, all in the same group, all looking in the same direction. A flare coming from the Soulmate at approximately 8 p.m. The boat Brian said he never made it back to. The third, fourth, and fifth. A private security camera a mile away on a man's house on Lubber's Quarters. Light events at the location of a supposedly empty boat. At 7:47 p.m., 13 minutes before the witnesses saw the flare. At 12:27 a.m., when Brian's account places him in the water heading toward Marsh Harbor. At 12:32 a.m., 5 minutes later, motion-sensitive spotlights activating again on a boat that no one was supposed to be on, staying on for 53 seconds, then going dark. And the 6th, a court record, an employment file, a documented confirmed history of altering a GPS system to create a false record of where a person was. 6 pieces of evidence, 1 question. 1 boat that was supposed to be empty. 1 flare that multiple witnesses say came from it at exactly the time Brian's own internal timeline says he fired one from somewhere else. Darlene Hamlet is 76 years old, and she is in Florida waiting for a phone call that has not come. Carly Ellsworth stood at the dock and looked at the Soulmate and said to no one who could hear her, "Hey Mom, I'm here, wherever you are." Lynette Hooker was 55 years old. She called the ocean her happy place. She documented a decade of that happiness under the name The Sailing Hookers. She signed off on April 4th, 2026, with a caption that said she was not going anywhere for a while. A flare was fired at approximately 8 p.m. on the night of April 4th. Multiple witnesses saw it come from the sailboat. The investigation knows what the Soulmate's digital systems recorded that night. The investigation knows what the Apple Watch data shows. The investigation holds the physical evidence that can resolve the question that 6 pieces of public record have now made impossible to set aside. Who was on that boat? The investigation continues. If this coverage gave you something, a clearer, more carefully sourced picture of a case that deserves the most serious attention possible, subscribe to the record shows and turn on the notification bell. We will not tell you what to conclude. We will give you the documented evidence, the sourcing, the limitations, and the analysis. And we will let you think. New investigations every week. That is the promise. Subscribe and hold us to it. This investigation was presented based entirely on official law enforcement statements, court documents confirmed through major news organizations, verified recorded materials obtained and authenticated by CBS News, and reporting by journalist Ashley Banfield through her Drop Dead Serious podcast, whose sourcing has been confirmed through her direct on-the-ground work in the Bahamas. Additional reporting from ABC News, NBC News, TMZ, and Crime Online is attributed as indicated throughout. All named individuals who have not been charged with crimes are presumed innocent of any criminal act. Brian Hooker has not been charged with any crime. His attorneys have stated publicly that he categorically and unequivocally denies all wrongdoing and has cooperated fully with investigators. The security camera footage from Dean Zamzilo's home on Lubber's quarters is subject to the significant limitations stated explicitly in this video. The footage is grainy. The Soulmate was approximately 1 mile from the camera, and neither Dean Zamzilo nor Ashley Banfield has claimed the ability to state with absolute certainty that what the footage captures is definitively the Soulmate. Those limitations are part of the record and belong in any honest description of this evidence. Analytical inferences presented in this video have been explicitly labeled as analysis throughout. They are not factual determinations. They are not legal conclusions. This content is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not legal advice. It is not a verdict. It is not an accusation. If you have any information about the disappearance of Lynette Hooker, contact the Royal Bahamas Police Force or the United States Coast Guard. Both investigations remain active.